Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. I am joined again today by Dave Williams. If you guys don't remember, you should go back and listen to his previous episode. It was titled The Active Duty Hunting Guide. Dave is an active duty airman, and he is also a hunting guide here in Idaho. So I know that Dave, we talked a lot earlier on that he is a passionate bear hunter. We got it laid out there for the world that mule deer hunting is better than elk hunting. So that's always a fun thing to talk about. But yeah, this time we're going to talk about bears, spring bears. So this will be the second episode in our kind of, fur and feathers spring hunting series. Right now, spending this month of February when this comes out, talking a lot about bear hunting. So Dave, without further ado, man, welcome back to the show. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah, man. Any major cool updates, anything that you've done since the last time you were on?
Nothing too major. I've went through a lot of my gear, spent a lot of money, upgraded a lot of stuff this year. So I'll be going ultralight this year, which will be interesting. Already my stuff's weighing a lot less, but other than that, nothing really major. Had a couple deer hunters in camp this November, but it was a rough year for deer hunting, if you want to get into that.
Yeah. No, it was, man. I know, we had different disease outbreaks and stuff in North Idaho and other parts of the state and throughout the West because of drought and stuff. So, and I don't think you probably, if I remember correctly, had the most cooperative weather around that time either.
No, it was hot. I think that's the first time I've ever hunted in November in a t-shirt that far north.
Yeah, it has been a weird winter, man. Like, it's funny because right now the rest of the country is, dealing with this big major winter storm that's pushed through. And by the time this releases, that'll kind of be old news. But, I just saw one of my old high school friends lives out in Maine, got 20 inches of snow overnight. People dealing with sub-zero temperatures. And over here in Idaho, we had a partly sunny day, the high of about 31. It's almost like the tropics. And we have no snow on the ground, at least down here in the valleys. So very unusual winter for us.
Yeah, we got hit a little bit down here in Texas. It was more ice and sleet and all that. So we actually had a snow day. I had the day off of work today. So
dang, nice, man.
Yeah.
Perks of the Air Force. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Yeah, dude. Well, let's dive into, man. I definitely want to circle back to some of that gear upgrading and ultralight stuff you're talking about. I think that's going to be super interesting. And I know that the ultralight backpack hunting is becoming pretty dang popular. Already has been becoming. It's not like a new concept, but well, yeah, let's dive into that at some point. We'll circle back, but getting into spring bear hunting, man, let's just start, especially since bear hunting something that you're passionate about. I know you probably got a bear hunting story lined up for the listeners. So why don't we just start with, man, like, give us one of your favorite bear hunting stories.
All right. So my favorite bear hunting story is actually about the first bear that I ever killed. Wasn't even targeting bears. We were on a September archery elk hunt, and yeah, we can dive into that. So it was early September, like early September. I was in Montana at the time, and their archery season started like 1 September. So we had targeted some wallows, did some other things actually to get back to the spot. But we drove a truck as far as we could drive a truck, unloaded some four-wheelers, drove four-wheelers as far as we could drive those, loaded up all our gear, and then hiked. I think it was another 6 miles. So we didn't see another soul back there. Got into the spot, spent the night, woke up the next morning, 2 bugles. So we were very excited. Kind of closed the distance, bugled. We had this bugling match back and forth for a little bit. Nothing really happened. Got, did what elk do, got kind of hung up at 100 yards. I think it was a herd bull with some cows, and he wasn't going to leave those cows. So we backed out, struck out for the rest of the day, went back to camp, kind of went back to the same area the next morning, and we could hear that bull bugling again. So we dropped into the bull, lost some elevation, but we were hearing multiple bulls now. So we're guessing, so they had some satellite bulls come in, and we ended up calling in a couple of the satellite bulls. My buddy that I was with, 2 bulls came through. Never really saw what they were. Just, saw that they were big, probably bigger 5 points, smaller sixes. He drew back, let one go, and hit the elk. And then we backed out, waited an hour, went back in, immediately found the arrow, found good blood, and then we tracked this thing for the next 4 or 5 hours. Never ended up recovering that bull. So the rest of the day we spent tracking. Then we came out, went back to camp, spent the night, woke up the next morning, said we were going to kind of try to stay in the same area, see if we could get back on that bull, try to do our due diligence and make sure that it wasn't dead somewhere or anything like that. So about 10 o'clock that morning, I was on a glassing knob over this kind of thick burn area, and I could just see a group of ravens circling, flying up, circling. Could hear them calling probably 300 or 400 yards down the mountain. So I went and grabbed my buddy, and I was like, "Hey, that might be your bull down there. Birds might have found it. Something might have found it." I was like, "It's gonna suck, but we have to walk this finger down and go check." And he agreed. So we're going through this awful blowdown, and then it starts raining, and it's miserable. But as we get closer to where we can tell there's crows or ravens on the ground calling away, about 150 yards from that, we kind of looked down and just saw this black blob through the trees. And I'm like, I think that's a bear. Pulled up my bino. Sure enough, big black bear just pawing around, eating something. We could tell something was dead down there. So I'm like, I have a bear tag. I'm going to try to sneak into this thing, get it with my bow. So we kind of waited, watched. He kind of bedded down for a little bit, kind of out in the open, which was strange knowing what I know now about bears. But the weather was good, as in it was slightly drizzling. The wind was in our favor. So I got, with the wind in my face, stalked down, crawled hands and knees down, and I got 20 yards of this bedded bear. And my heart's pumping. I've never been this close to a bear before in my life. Heart's pumping, range, and it was 20 yards even. Drew my bow back, and I'm shaking, settled down, went through my bow process, let the arrow go, and it flew right over his back and smacked a tree.
No.
And then we have all this on video too. My buddy was filming, went right over his back, smacked the tree, but he was asleep, I guess, because he got up, kind of looked around. And at this point, I'm shaking more than I was before, not trying to move. I'm only 20 yards from this bear that I just woke up. Bear kind of yawns, looks around, paws at some crows and gets them out of the way, takes a few steps. And by this time, I've already knocked another arrow. And as soon as his head kind of goes away from me, I drew back again, let that one go, and that one hit home. So I saw it disappear about midway through the body, halfway up, which is exactly where you want to hit a bear. And I mean, that arrow, I've never seen an animal go down so fast, rifle shot or anything. He spun around a few times and he died 10 yards away from where I shot him. Crazy. And it was crazy being that close and watching all of that go down and watching that animal expire. I'm getting a little shaky thinking about it. It was a heck of an experience for me. And then, once it's all said and done, we go over, we're checking out the bear, and buddy finds the arrow that I missed, just sunk into a tree, had to break it off. Never was able to recover that arrow. Come to realize that, and this was probably we didn't realize it or even think about it at the time. We were just in hunting mode, that bear had buried an elk carcass that somebody else had killed in that unit and was sleeping on it. So we're very thankful that the wind was in our favor. Nothing bad happened. But yeah, it was quite the experience. Miserable pack out, as they all are. Not as lightweight gear as I have now. We got the bear all cleaned up, packed it out. Probably the coolest thing I would say about this story is we were so far away from any roads or anybody really. It was a wilderness area that we were in. Was when I got the tooth age data back on that bear. He was 16 years old. So he was a very old bear. And he measured
that is an old
out at 6'2". So that's my biggest bear to date. And it was my first bear. And then I remember after that, just kind of sitting there, after I had shot the bear and it had expired, just staring at this thing. And then from that moment forward, I was obsessed. I was going to learn as much as I could about these animals, and I would be a lifelong bear hunter.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's pretty unique experience for sure. To be looking for your buddy's elk and then find that bear on a carcass of another elk, and that's wild, man. 20 yards with a bow, and that is an old bear. We were talking to Tom Snyder last week, and it was the same he was talking about, I think, a 16-year-old bear. That is an old bear, man. It's pretty awesome when you get an opportunity to take an old warrior of the mountain like that. And so that's awesome, dude. Great story, and congrats on an awesome bear.
Appreciate it.
So that started you down the route of spring bear hunting. So, well, you got interested in bear hunting. What got you into spring bears?
For me, it was, again, like I wanted to learn as much as I could about this animal. And kind of way back when I first started hunting out west, I started off rifle hunting just strictly. And then I, fell in love with the mountains and hunting and being outside. I picked up a bow. So that extended my season. And then I started looking at other species to hunt. So that expanded my season. So as I became more and more obsessed with bears, I'm like, I have this whole, I think Montana season's almost 2.5 months that I can be out in the mountains, chasing bears.
Nice, man. Yeah. It's a beautiful time of year to be out too. It's like everything's getting green. It's nice to get out and get fresh air after the winter. Sweet,
it's
man.
Also a good way to break in new gear, test new gear, all that stuff, shake off the winter frost.
Absolutely.
See how much you fell out of shape during the winter.
Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical.
Well, sweet, man. So let's just dive into, like your process for spring bear hunting. Obviously, when it comes to unit selection, you have a couple of things going on. One, where you guide, you don't get a choice. You go hunt the unit that the permit for that outfitter's in. But you do, when you're hunting on your own, select other units and go hunt different parts of the state of Idaho. If not, I don't know if you're still planning on going back to Montana and hunting or over to Washington, but you do go hunt different units. Let's just kind of talk about spring bear hunting 101 from ground one. I decided I want to go on a spring bear hunt. Now I need to pick, a state and a unit to go hunting in. So what would be your process to start narrowing down from state to what part of that state? And I mean, if you could pick whatever state you're most familiar with, but what's your process there?
So my process would be, and I'm sure a lot of folks listening to this podcast, live in a Western state. They have bears in their state. First piece of advice would be, because this is going to be the easiest way to get a tag and probably the cheapest for anybody, is to see if there's opportunities to go in your state. If there's not, look at states where bears over the counter, which I know for sure that's the case in Montana and Idaho. Those are the only two states that I've personally bear hunted in. But yeah, so you get over the counter tags there. So the first thing's just going to be getting a tag. Where can I pick up a tag and, go spend some time in the mountains?
Awesome. So you get Idaho, say narrow down to Idaho, just because that's, we're both the most familiar with Idaho.
Okay.
What's your next step? Like as far as springtime hunting, what are the factors that guide your decision making on what type of terrain or unit you're going to be trying to hit?
The first thing I'm going to look at are different units, and there's tools out there. Go Hunt's a big one. It's one that I personally use to help me kind of narrow down units. But say I want to get a bear tag in Idaho, but I have nowhere to start. I'd say the first thing would be access, especially if this is your first time spring bear hunting. You're going to kind of want to pick somewhere where you can get in some trails, but get away from some roads. That's going to get you into the right terrain where these bears are going to be. The next thing I'd do would be to deep dive and start learning everything that you can about hunting bears in spring. What are the bears looking for? What time of the year they coming out of their dens? Are boars coming out first or sows coming out first? Their food sources. And there's plenty of tools out there for that. Go Hunt. Again, I'm not sponsored or anything. They have a great tool. It's worth every penny if you like that. The next best thing you can do is you can find these through the state's game website, or you can go to Google Scholar. I think I dropped this bit of knowledge the last time I was on the podcast, but I'll reiterate it. Almost every Western state has done studies on black bears. whether that's ecology driven or, their territory, what they're eating, population wise. So start looking at that stuff. Try to learn as much as you can about the animal, and that's going to help you select a unit to go into, and, kind of give you a little bit of a base to start looking at.
Gotcha. And, so there's a couple different tactics that you can use. And we're just for folks listening, we're just going to stick right now with spot and stalk. Like in Idaho and Montana, you can bait bears, you can run bears with hounds. But the reason I want to stick with spot and stalk is just because it's the easiest to go do, right? Like you don't have to have dogs, raise them, pay for all the food and vet bills and train them up and all the gear that goes with hounds. Like it's a blast to hunt bears over hounds. And I would highly suggest that if anybody ever has an inclination to do it, pick a really good outfitter, or if you don't have a friend that does it, and go experience it. Like it's totally worth experiencing to be behind hounds, chasing bears or mountain lions. And same thing, I think even baiting bears, if you can ever be in an opportunity to hunt over bait, like don't brush it off. It's pretty cool because you can sit there and have an opportunity to look at a lot of bears, get to look over a lot of bears and be picky about what you're getting. You're able to use game camera pictures to kind of know who's coming and when they're coming. And it can actually be fun to sit in the tree stand and get an opportunity to watch bears up close and personal. They have no idea you're there and to be picky about your bear. But when spot and stalk, and kind of the reason I like it, I've done all of them, but the reason I like spot and stalk is because it's just get my gear, get my rifle, get in the truck and go hunt. Like I don't have to spend days and hours hauling barrels and food around the mountains and checking my baits and refilling my baits. Baits are a lot of work. Hounds are a lot of work. Spot and stalk bear hunting is easy. Well, not easy, but it's easy to just go do because it's just like deer hunting or elk hunting. You just go do it, right? So that's why 99% of people that are going to go hunt from out of state, especially DIY, you're going to come and you're going to do a spot and stalk bear hunt, whether that's Idaho, Alaska, Montana, and whatever other states have spring bear hunts. I'm not entirely sure outside of those three. So spot and stalk hunting, you spend a lot of time, where you guide. It's kind of a backcountry, front country setting. We're not going to talk about exactly where, but it's a lot more like driving around, and it's a different kind of country. It's steep, really thick timbered country versus, some of the backcountry hunts that you've probably done where you're in more high country, open country. So just walk us through your process through each of those tactics that you would apply where you guide versus where you normally go hunt.
All right. We'll start with where I would personally go hunt. One thing that I'm looking for, and this is true of deer or elk or anything, I love to hunt burns. And if you do a little bit of research, you can kind of target in on the right burn or where in that burn to hunt. Love to hunt burns. The next thing I'm looking for, I'm usually starting off e-scouting and looking at maps. So that's one thing I'm zeroing in on. The other thing is elevation and where your snow line is at. So if I'm going into a unit, I'm looking at where the elevation is and like, what's the average elevation of that unit? Is it going to be 9,000, 10,000 feet? Is it going to be like tops, from 4,000 to 6,000 feet? Because that's going to play a major role in where you're going to go and look. And a tool, or I guess a quick tip for anybody that say they're traveling from out of state or they don't live in the area where they're looking to go bear hunt. What you can do is all over Idaho, Montana, all these mountain places, there's ski resorts, right? And a lot of those ski resorts will have live streams going on of the slopes, or they'll tell you how deep the snow is at whatever elevation that ski slope's at. So that's a cool kind of tool, one that I definitely use to go, because it'll pan around and you can kind of see across the mountains. Then you'd be like, okay, I know on Onyx that far mountain over there is this mountain based off of, where it is from the ski resort. And it kind of looks like the snow lines up there. Because everybody, I was going to say as everybody knows, but they might not. But as the spring moves on, those bears are going to chase that kind of green wave up. And if you dive deep down into it, you can kind of figure out certain little pockets of where they're going to be, and not just generally looking at south facing slopes. Don't overlook maybe a north slope that's getting a little bit of sun midday or something, and it's going to green up because it's flat up there, southeast slope, southwest slope. So that's another thing that I'm looking at. Probably the next thing I'm looking at is access. You read a lot of studies, and I read one specifically that was talking about bears in this certain area. They were gathering data with telemetry collars, and across the board, and more so your big boars than your sows with cubs, avoided active roads where people could drive. Now, I'm not saying you can't drive around in glass and find bears that way. I've done it. I've seen other people do it, but I have a lot more success when I'm a mile or so farther than that road. And then I guess another hot tip, something that I use, look for drainages that run east to west or west to east. And then that's going to give you a big, long, south-facing slope with all of the little hidden pockets and stuff in there. So if you can find one of those that has, a burn in it, or maybe the whole slope's burned, that would be a great place to start for anyone looking to go. It was a bit of a mouthful. Moving on to in maybe the area that I guide in, it's a little bit more thickly timbered. So if there's too much snow, it kind of takes away your ability to get up above the tree line and find bears, kind of in that snow line area, because the snow line's going to be so low. Your best bet there is to be, same thing, kind of go look for burns or anywhere where the country's broken up by, timber thinning or clear cuts. Maybe try to ask some permission for if there's private land around there. I know in bad winters where it's been pretty snowy and early in the season, you see bears as low as, 3,000 feet, just because they're kind of in those riparian areas along streams where it's going to be a little bit warmer, and that's going to have the freshest green grass there.
Gotcha.
And be willing to travel and change your plans. Be flexible when it comes to bear hunting, because it's going to be different every spring.
Right. Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of factors that go into timing and how it works with location, right? Just because no spring seems to be the same, especially lately. This last 2 years, we're having some pretty warm weather. I'm assuming that this year is going to be a warm early spring, that we're going to have green up. I mean, shoot, it feels like it's been green all winter, honestly, but we're probably going to have green up super early here. So places that you might have gone, first week of May last year, the bears are going to be way out of there because they've moved further up the mountain this year. It's kind of what I've noticed, and what I'm assuming is kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So another thing that's kind of common in Idaho, and I think Washington actually has a spring draw tag too, and I know it's really common over there, and I'm sure it is in Montana as well. But we get a lot of logging, logged out areas, right? Places where it's really thick timber and there's logging roads all over the mountains, between clear cuts, and glassing can be difficult. So what's a tactic that you use to hunt in an area where it's really thick and glassing is going to be as easy, but there's still there's still bears in there to get at?
So one thing that I've used, and I found it to be more effective earlier in the spring, is just find closed logging roads and walk 5-10 miles, look for bear sign. And if you can find one of those areas where, you are getting some consistent bear sign, whether tracks or scat across the road, and if it's pretty fresh, that bear is going to be not very far from there, especially if it's earlier in the spring. But yeah, at least where I guide in Idaho, I found that tactic to be useful the very first week to 2 weeks of the season, as, they're kind of chasing that snow line up. So that snow is going to melt off those roads. And I forget off the top of my head so as they cut these roads, whenever they did, they'll throw this grass seed down, and it just grows in thick, and the bears love it. And it grows right off of either side of the road, and they do that so it holds the soil together. But bears love it. I've had a lot of luck just kind of walking logging roads pretty slow, peeking around corners, and there's a bunch of YouTube videos out there of guys doing that. So definitely a very effective tactic earlier in the spring.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Is there anything else that do you think would be valuable as far as locating bears? I mean, we covered, so the green wave being food sources, green grass, following the snow melt. Tom mentioned last week a really good tip that I never really thought of, but is when you get higher up above the snow line, looking for maybe south-facing slopes that maybe they have snow on them, but they have big boulder outcrops where the snow melts off, and then it kind of warms the ground around it. So there's a very little green patch and an ocean of no green, and the bears can oftentimes, that'll be a magnet to those bears that are denned up higher. Yeah. The food seems to be the key with bears, kind of year round, man. Is find the food, find the bears. But the
Oh,
key with
100%.
spring is that you have the advantage of the food being a little bit less spread out, which means that you can typically find the bears easier. Is that kind of what your take on it?
Yeah. He's out there giving all the secrets away. But yeah, look for if you can find a southern facing slope that's going to get a lot of sun early. Like he said, that those rocks and boulders are going to absorb that heat. That snow melts, and then that's going to be the greenest grass on the mountain for probably a while before those bears break off and start wandering around. But that is definitely a very effective tactic. If you use Onyx or anything, you can definitely tell where the rockier stuff is mixed with a little bit of green. I would avoid straight scree fields. I haven't never had any luck there really, but if you can find a good rocky field with intermittent grass in it, it's going to be a magnet for those bears early in the spring.
Awesome. What about time of day for bear hunting?
So here's where me and some folks disagree a little bit. I tend to not find as many bears early in the morning, but I have. So when I go bear hunting, and I do this with my clients as well as myself on my personal hunts, I'm in my glassing spot before or right as the sun's coming up. And I'm glassing for that morning glass. And then with bears, you kind of never know. They'll just kind of pop up. There's really no lull in the day. The more time you spend on the glass, the more effective you're going to be. And plus, if you're going to put all that effort in to lug all your gear up the mountain, don't sleep in. Go hunt. Go be effective. But yeah. But a lot of people will tell you that bears sleep in, which is true. I mean, however, I'll tell this story real quick. The very last bear that I shot, it was opening day, Montana. So I crawled up to my glassing spot. I was sitting in the snow, glassing below the snow line. I was cold. I was miserable. But about 15 minutes after that sun came up, I had a boar feed out. He was only out for maybe 5 minutes. Probably said, "This is too cold. I'm going back to bed." Fed back in into this little patch of timber. I watched it for a little bit. He didn't leave, so I know he went back in there and laid back down. So I was able to cut the 3-mile distance between us and set up for a 400-yard shot when he did eventually feed out around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He was being lazy, but because I wasn't in the morning, I was able to spot that bear, close in, and seal a deal on opening day.
Man, that's awesome. Whereas like the scenario where you sleep in, you get up there, you see the bear from your original glassing spot late in the day and maybe don't get over there in time to get a shot before the sun goes down. So
Exactly.
yeah, that makes sense, man. And I love that, dude. If you're going to spend all the time, effort, and money to get up in the mountains, just hunt. Like that's what you're there to do anyways, right?
Yeah.
And it can get hard like on a like when you start getting into May when it's actually light for a long time, like the nights are a lot shorter and those mornings become really early in like mid to late May, but it's fun and it's worth it. I always love being up when the sun comes out.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. So we kind of covered, let's see here. We covered terrain, feed, look, how to kind of like narrow it in on different areas, picking states, picking units, some of the tools that you went over and terrain to look for, time of day. Let's just kind of do like a little bit of a dive into gear. And just because I've actually never talked cartridge on this show and it's always a fun, controversial topic probably. But let's just talk about, I mean, you're a guy, dude. So if I'm hiring you and I'm like, "Dave, I'm going to come bear hunt with you, and what caliber rifle would you like me to bring bear hunting? I have them all. What would you suggest?"
Whichever one you are the most effective with. That's typically going to be my answer. If you shoot a 300 PRC and you're effective with it and you can hit a 12-inch steel plate time after time at 700 yards, bring that. I've guided people that have taken bears with a 6.5 Creedmoor because they put a lot of time and money into that setup. They were super effective with it. They were super accurate with it. But if you called me and asked me, I say whatever gun you're most effective with, and you're like, "Well, I'm a superstar and I'm effective with all of them," I'm gonna say probably try to go 30 caliber or larger. Just kind of, if you're not super dialed in on the gun, it gives you a little bit of leeway. But like personally, I hunt with a 6.5 PRC, and I've taken all of my bears with that caliber, and I've had zero issues.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about what you're comfortable shooting. If you can't hit the broadside of the barn because you're afraid of recoil, you're not going to do any good. And I know, I mean, there's always the argument, well, practice and get good at handling the recoil too. And that's why it's always kind of fun to talk about, man, because you could just devil's advocate and counter argue so many different ways, with it towards you should just be a man and shoot a bigger gun and learn how to deal with the recoil versus like it's all about shot placement. I've heard of people hunting. I've never personally hunted bears with a 6.5 Creedmoor or know anybody that's shot a bear with a 6.5 Creedmoor. Actually, I take that back. I do. One of my good buddies kills bears every single fall with a 6.5 Creedmoor, and he's very effective at it. The dude's a phenomenal shot.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know that the 6.5 Creedmoor is too light, man. I don't know, and I'm sure there's gonna be folks now where there's some 22 caliber cartridges that are coming out that are pretty ballistically phenomenal. But I think for me, man, like I get the whole light, what you shoot. I do understand the like minimalist cartridge thing that's going on. There's some kind of stuff that I think is cool about it. Lighter recoils, faster speeds, easy to suppress, shorter barrel, all the things. Like you can make a really lightweight gun. However, I'm with you, man. I think just comfort wise, I don't even know if I care about room for error, but I'm just more comfortable, especially because we do a lot of hunting in grizzly bear country, having a 30 caliber gun or bigger. I know when the cartridges I've used for bears have been an arrow, very effective. Same experience as your bear, man. I shot my bear with a bow and it didn't even make it 20 yards. But of my rifle kills, I've shot a bear with a 308. I've shot a bear with a 300 Win Mag, and both cartridges killed bears.
Yeah, definitely. So when I'm guiding, typically we'll carry a rifle or something, just because we do hunt in grizzly bear country and there are plenty of them around. So I will carry a 30 cal, something a little bit bigger. But if I'm out on my own, I'm carrying a 10 millimeter handgun and carrying my 6.5 PRC, because that's the gun that I've spent the most time on. I'm super comfortable with it. I know I'm dialed in, and I know as long as I can minimize any user error, I'm gonna hit where I was aiming. And so far, I haven't had to track a bear past about 50 yards. If you can pop both their lungs, they don't go very far.
Speaking of aiming, where on a bear would you suggest aiming? Where's the ideal shot placement?
So I've heard a lot of different opinions about this. Typically what I'm telling people is take where you would aim at a deer and then go 3 to 4 inches back, depending on how big the bear is. If you can do that, not necessarily like center punch them. I've heard folks say that's a little bit too far back for me. But if you can do that, a couple inches back from where you say you would shoot a deer and maybe an inch higher than that. So about, if you can imagine, like you're staring broadside at a bear, go to where you would aim for a deer, a couple inches over, maybe an inch or two up. And that's going to put you smack dab in the lungs. And like I said, when you pop both their lungs, they don't go very far.
Right. Sweet, man. Anything else on like cartridge or shot placement that you think would be useful?
I would wait, say someone goes out, they do get a bear in their sight. I will do this for clients. I try to hold myself to it as well. Wait until that bear gets as broadside as possible, just to make sure you can make a good shot. And it's going to be a straight through and through. The lungs, if you hit the lungs on a bear, it is super effective. So just be patient, especially with spring bears. If you catch them out feeding, even if they feed off into the timber, chances are they're probably not going to move far. You're going to be able to find them in that area again. So rather than wound a bear and then have to track it maybe through some brush or into the dark, into the night, just wait, be patient, make a good shot.
Love it, man.
No matter what cartridge you're using.
Hey, folks, just wanted to take a quick break from the show to talk about my most recent partnership with a good friend of mine, Jake Collier, and his company, One Outdoors. One Outdoors provides a trusted place to purchase outdoor experiences, gear, and services. They aim to positively impact people and the environment by donating 10% of all of their net profits to Restoration Outdoors, a nonprofit, which in turn invests in mental health and conservation. One Outdoors offers trips around the globe, whether you're interested in hunting in Africa or fishing in Alaska, Patagonia, and more. They can customize your outdoor experiences and beyond just hunting and fishing to whitewater rafting. You name it, folks. If you can dream it up in the outdoors, One Outdoors can help make that dream come true. And I'm proud to be partnering with them and consulting on trips and hunts. So if you're interested in booking a trip of a lifetime with One Outdoors, you can reach me or reach out to me at Thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. It's Thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com, or you can contact me directly through Instagram, Facebook, you name it. But One Outdoors, folks, really excited to be working with these guys. So thank you very much for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. I think that's pretty solid advice. Sweet, man. So we decided we're going bear hunting. We picked our unit, found our unit, and now we're going to go. We picked our rifle. So like just into the rest of gear. So for just kind of like, general Western bear hunting, and I think we could probably even go into a little bit of the backpacking side of things, because obviously you're going ultralight on us now. So give us a rundown of your gear setup, man. Like what kind of gear and how are you packing for a Western spring hunt?
Gosh, we could do a whole separate podcast on just gear. I'm a gear junkie. I'm constantly buying things, testing them out, and then buying new stuff the next year. I'm a gearhead. But I would say it's going to depend on whether you do want to go backpack or you're going to be hunting out of like a truck at a base camp. Obviously that changes what kind of stuff you could take. I don't know if there was a specific one you wanted to go down.
Well, why don't we just go
general?
I mean, yeah, general, but we could definitely do backpack. I think that backpack hunting is probably a pretty good way to pursue bears. It's a fun way to pursue bears. And at the end of the day, like if you bring your backpack hunting gear with you and end up deciding to hunt from a base camp, or you're not sure, like you can just add to it, right? Like, so,
yeah.
You can just add the creature comfort. So let's do backpacking and just kind of the rundown and maybe some things that are specific to spring, if anything.
So the first thing that I would say is a good pair of boots. They don't have to be as heavy. They are, gosh, can't remember off the top of my head. I really can't remember what boots I have. I just bought them new this year and broke them in. I'll remember Kenetreks. They're the Kenetrek hard scrabble. So it's a lighter weight boot. I tend to hunt in that year round because my feet never get cold. I sweat a lot. So if I wear a big, heavy insulated boot, that's just not going to be good for me. But the best pair of boots that you can afford is what I would buy, because you got to take care of your feet. You're going to be covering a lot of miles through the bear country, through the mountains. The next thing, get a good backpack. It doesn't have to be the best in the world. Just make sure it fits you and you can carry weight comfortably. Again, with the ultralight stuff, my tent is pretty much just a tarp. I have an Argali, I think it's the Rheincon 2-person, super lightweight. I do have the net insert. This would be a specific for spring type of thing. I put the net insert in it because I hate ticks. And unfortunately, ticks are on almost every bear hunt that I go on. So I love bears. I love the mountains. I hate ticks. So that boots are probably going to be the most important thing. The best glass that you can afford. That's probably true of any hunt, but if you spring bear hunt like I do, you're going to be spending a lot of time behind your glass. So make sure it's good glass, warm sleeping bag, and rain gear. I don't think I've ever gone out on a spring bear hunt where I either didn't get dumped on with snow or it poured rain for 3 days straight and I'm stuck in a tent because I didn't have good rain gear. I mean, as far as backpacking goes, if you can afford one and you have the capacity to bring it around, one of those lightweight titanium backpacking stoves. Obviously, you have to have a tent that's compatible with it. That thing's a game changer, because if you do get caught in that rainstorm and you do get wet, you have the ability to dry your clothes out, especially if you're going to get stuck in a squall or something. And it's just comfortable. And the more comfortable you are, the longer you're going to be able to stay out, the more focused on, glassing and hunting, the more effective you're going to be out in the mountains. Other than that, I think that would be a good base for anyone that's looking to, if they haven't backpacked before. Good tent, good sleeping bag, good sleeping pad, good boots. Highly recommend buying inserts for whatever brand of boots you choose to go with. For the longest time, I didn't believe in them until I bought them, and they were a complete game changer. And
what inserts are you using?
Now my knees thank me. I am using the Superfeet Hike. They're pretty, you can get them on Amazon. They're about, I think they're $40 or $50. And they lasted me 3 seasons before I swapped them out. If you have the time to invest in them, I know a lot of guys swear by the sheep feet ones. Those are custom. They send you a mold, you step into it, they send it back, and they send you custom orthotics. Right. I know people that run those. I do just fine with the Superfeet though.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've run the Superfeet for a long time. I get the Trailblazers. They're green, look like they have topo lines on them. Killer inserts. I bought a new pair of boots this last summer, and I dropped some money on them, man. But I got Lathrop & Sons, and that wasn't shifting over from my Crispies, which are a little bit lighter weight. But my Lathrop & Sons are they're a heavy boot. They're like a all leather mountain boot, and they actually do their own custom insoles. And so I ended up going with their Synergy insoles. And so far I really like them. A little bit different because they make them out of like a rubber instead of like, that typical kind of foam. But so
Okay.
far, man, I'm pretty happy. Like I hunted those boots a lot this last fall and took them on my mule deer hunt down in like the, Salmon River, like Frank Church type wilderness kind of hunt. And the cool thing about Lathrop & Sons, if anyone's looking for boots, you're gonna spend money. Like they're expensive. They're the most expensive boots I think I've found on the market. But I'm huge. I'm on feet too, man. I can't emphasize get good boots and break them in before you go out west hunting. But the customer service from James, who's the owner of Lathrop & Sons, man, he will get on the phone with you personally, and that's I've had a lot of conversations with him going through the process of buying boots and questions after they got here about making sure that things are working right, and he's available if you have problems. So that right there I think is pretty epic. But there's a little plug for Lathrop & Sons. So far I'm pretty happy with those boots, and I'd second the sheep feet.
Yeah, definitely. You'll have to send me some
Alright.
contact information so I could reach out to those folks.
Yeah, not
But
sheep
yeah.
feet, second the super feet.
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny you say that you swapped from Crispies because I was wearing the Crispy Laponia 2s and I burned through 2 pairs of those in 2 seasons. And I was like, I'm going to go try something else. And so far, these kind of treks they're pretty good. Probably didn't spend on them what you did on your new pair, but they're doing well so far.
Yeah.
They're a favorite, especially because I can wear them year round.
Kenetrex are good boots, man. And I think they're a really good price point for the boot you get for them. And I still like Crispy, but I think if I was to get another Crispy boot, I'd probably get one of their all leather boots.
Yes.
Synthetics, I know they're supposed to be waterproof, and maybe it's me not taking care of them, but I've not had a pair of boot with a synthetic outer that just stays watertight. Whereas the leather boots, man, they're easy. I feel like they're easier to maintain. You can keep them waxed up, and they really keep the water out. And I don't know that my feet sweating them anymore, although in theory they should. But I'm like you, I don't buy insulated hunting boots just because my feet, at least for backpack and, difficult terrain hunting, because my feet sweat really bad. So I like boots that dry out quick. I like to be able to like get to my glassing spot, take my feet out of my boots, let my boots air out. I'll pull out my insoles, take off my socks, get everything dry, and even change my socks, man. I'm pretty weird. Like my creature comfort when I go backpack hunting is extra socks. Like I usually bring more socks than my buddies just because I love fresh, dry socks on my feet, especially because my feet tend to sweat so bad.
Yeah, I used to. And then I started being super weight conscious, and I figure I'm going to smell anyways. So I'm taking, I'm only taking 1 pair of pants, 1 pair of socks. Gross, but 1 pair of boxers. I don't need any more than that for probably like a 5 to 6 day hunt.
Yeah, I'd rather be gross on like all of those, but I usually do, if I can do it, depends on room and where I'm at. I like to do like an every other day sock change. Like I'll bring just 2 pairs, but like I'll rinse a pair out in a creek.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's smart. I should probably start doing that. My feet would probably thank me. Anyone sharing a tent with me would probably also thank me. But
I feel like
I said, this year,
that smell just kind of like once you're like all stinky, you kind of like don't notice it until you get in the truck and get back to town, and all of a sudden you're like, dude, we smell bad.
yeah, you walk into a store at home and the wife's like, you need to go back outside or go get in the shower immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like I said, this year I'm trying to go as light as I can on anything. So, I've probably spent too much money on stuff. But I'm excited. Like I said, I'm a gearhead. I'm excited to get all this stuff out there and try it.
Absolutely. So what pack are you running this year?
So I swapped. I was running a Mystery Ranch, and I have no complaints about Mystery Ranch at all. It was a great pack. It was tougher than nails, and I had that pack for probably 6 years. But I just swapped to Stone Glacier, and I think sitting here 5,000 cubic inches, and then it can expand and stuff like that. But the pack itself is, I want to say it comes in at just under 5 pounds.
Nice.
So it's pretty lightweight, not a lot of fancy pockets or anything on it like that. Just a backpack. I will say that's probably the most comfortable pack that I've thrown on my back and used. I actually called Stone Glacier and had them walk me through, instead of just watching videos, walk me through how to fit it. Their customer service was excellent. But yeah, this is my first Stone Glacier pack, and So far, I really like it. I know a lot of other folks that guide and they hunt in Alaska and all that stuff. They all swear by it.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm excited to see how you do. I've been looking at Stone Glacier and the EXO, their newer packs.
Yeah.
I have a Mystery Ranch too, and it is hard for me to justify spending the money on a new pack for the same reasons. Like I have no complaints. It's tough as nails. I've been running it for 6 years, but yeah, I've also been starting to look, just kind of the same thing, like a lighter weight back, man. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
don't think I've ever heard anything bad about the EXO packs either.
Yeah. Yeah, time will tell. What about well, I know like you said, man, springtime, dude. I get rained on more during spring hunts than I do fall hunts. With the exception of probably this year with those atmospheric rivers that came through. It was kind of psychotic with the rain for a couple of days early on our mule deer hunt this year. But what rain gear did you go with this year?
So I have a kind of a mishmash. So my jacket is Stone Glacier. My pants are from Kuya. Just because I like gear, but I'm not made of money. And both of these sets were in either of the website's outlets. So I picked them up last year, and they were phenomenal. The driest I've ever been. Before that, I think I was running the Gore-Tex stuff the military gave me, and it was not great. It was military grade, we'll say that.
No, yeah, no, it's not great. I ended up picking up a new jacket. I got a Kuiu rain jacket, and it's the exact one escapes me right now. I think I think the Chugach is their lower level, lightest weight, and I think I went above that, whatever that is. And then I'm like you, man. I'm kind of a bargain shopper. I'm not made of money, but I do want good gear. But my rain breeches are their First Light, and they're like their lighter First Light. They're lighter pants. I can't remember exactly again. I think it's like the Storm Light or something like that. But really like the zip off, like full side zip feature on those, and I've not had any issue with those pants. I've run those pants for a few years. I wore them. My first trip with them was in Alaska. They did great. They've done great ever since. I try to take care of them. And then that Kuiu rain jacket, man, was bulletproof. And we got freaking hammered on this last fall with some rain and stayed dry as a bone underneath.
Yeah, that was something that I learned the hard way. I was like, I need a new rifle or I need this new piece of gear instead of like spending at least a decent amount of money on my rain gear. I can't tell you how many sets of like frog togs I went through. Not that stuff's not effective. I'm hard on my stuff. I shredded those things, but get what you can afford. We're talking about all this expensive hunting gear. And when I first started out west, I was hunting in jeans, a hoodie, and my rain gear was a poncho.
Yep.
But I was still able to kill deer, and I had a blast.
Yeah, the gear doesn't make you a better hunter. I'll just say it like, for me, it's just more effective at keeping me dry and accomplishing its mission, the more effective I will be at, willing to stay out longer and all those things. And I like being warm and dry. So, but I started out in,
100%.
Inexpensive, leftover military stuff as well. But I'm definitely happy with the gear that I've bought, but it has taken me years to kind of accumulate and cycle through or realize, all right, this cheaper stuff's not as good. And if there's gear that I can buy that like rain gear, you really rely on that sometimes, right? That could be a life-saving piece of gear. So to me, that's worth spending a little bit more money on. Whereas like maybe some of my insulating layers, like I don't spend the money on the lightest weight or the newest material because I can go get like a bargain. Like I got a bargain Mountain Hardwear fleece, and it's nothing super special, but it's fairly lightweight. It's warm enough. I only paid $40 for it rather than like $120 for some of these mid layers you can go buy. Did just fine. So yeah, I'm all about bargain shopping where I can, but rain gear, I will swear by merino wool. I think it's worth the money. I don't care if you spend, money at an expensive merino wool from like First Light or Kuiu or whatever, but merino wool is a worthwhile material, which kind of goes into with spring. If you're coming out west, the mountains any time of year, man, you just got to be prepared for multiple weather. But spring is absolutely psychotic around here, and we'll be 65 degrees and sunny 1 minute, and then it'll be like hailing, snowing, and freezing rain 20 minutes later. wake up to a foot of snow. You just don't know what you're going to encounter when you come out here in the spring. So bring the layers, bring good rain gear. I think you were spot on that. Rain gear, layers, a good base layers, good mid layers, good rain jacket, good insulating layers so you can sit in glass in cold, miserable conditions. Glassing tarps can be really helpful tools too to keep you on the mountain a little bit longer. And then like spring specific gear that I've found useful. I always have trekking poles now. I learned that the hard way in Alaska. Trekking poles are money.
Yes.
Especially for pack outs. And then the other thing is like a set of little like just cheap crampon cleats for your boots can be really, really awesome crossing slippery logs, or maybe you run into some icy climbs that you have to make just because of the time of year. I've really found like, getting them, you can get them at Costco or get them on Amazon, just something small, lightweight, those little bikini style cleats for your boots. Throw those in your pack, and those could legitimately be life-saving.
Yeah, those are great. I have yet to invest in a pair, but that is on my list. I will be taking those with me this year, especially for the type of personal hunt I'm going on this year. I'm going to be far back away. And I think you said, Tom, you had on last week was talking about, we're going to be up kind of in that snow line looking for those early boars that are out. So
nice, man.
It's going to be cold.
Well,
one other piece of gear real quick, if I got a minute.
Yep, go for it.
That I will swear on, that I just got them last year. Zip off thermal leggings. Especially in the spring, you wake up, it's cold, might be below freezing. By noon, it's 70 degrees and you're sweating. Not having to take your boots off to take your leggings off, game changer for me. Highly recommend everyone go buy a pair.
Hey, everybody. I just want to take a quick break to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. And to thank you today, I want to offer you a discount at 360 Sportsman. Head over to 360sportsman.org now and use promo code PF15. That is PF15 to get 15% off your subscription to any of their master classes listed on the website. You can learn anything over there to improve your skills at hunting, fishing, trapping, snowmobiling. There's going to be first aid classes up there. They've got all kinds of stuff. There's even a how to build a house class coming. So anything you want to learn related to the outdoors or just making yourself a more knowledgeable human being, head over to 360sportsman.org. Use promo code PF to get 15% off any of their master classes. Want to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show.
Love it, man. So I think we kind of like covered gear. I mean, I think we've gotten the whole gamut, man. So yeah, like why don't we just wrap up with what's your spring hunting plans?
So I'm going a little earlier this year. I'm going to be hunting Idaho. It's my home state. It's where I'm a resident. And I got a buddy that's coming over that I worked with in Montana, and he has mules. So we're taking off. We've got two mules to ride and 2 to pack gear. So we're going to be living pretty comfortably in the backcountry, and we're going to go, just to kind of bring everything full circle into a spot I haven't been in, but it's an east to west facing drainage. There's a good solid burn in there, and I'm pretty confident as long as the snow line and weather cooperates this year, which is kind of why we're going a little earlier, we're going to go in there. And I have no doubts in the 8 days that we're back there, both of us are going to come out with some bears. Maybe a wolf too, if we're lucky.
Nice, man. I love it. Yeah, that's one thing that I haven't gotten to experience yet is a mule or horse pack-in type hunt. And I think that's going to change this fall. I'm tentatively, if the clients book, looking to do a mule deer hunt down in the Salmon River country for an outfit. I'm not going to name them until I'm hired. In the client's book. So, I mean, you know how clients are, they could be sitting here and like, yeah, we're doing it, and never deposit, never book. And I don't get to go mule deer hunting for them or with them. I will be down there on my own, but if I go with that outfit, that'll be a pack mule type of situation. So that'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to that experience. I'll be down in that country anyways, hunting on my own before their hunt would be scheduled. I'm excited, man, because you remember we got the pack goats. So yeah. This year, and I don't know if I told you this, I gave those goats to a buddy just because like my wife and I were like, we can't, it was a thing. They were destroying everything we own, man. As soon as these like really cute little baby goats that were like, I think they're about 12 inches tall when we got them, turned into like 200-pound monsters. They're super sweet, but like they just were destroying everything, man. And it's a long story, but we decided that like we just weren't set up for goats right now. We had some other things going on in our lives. So I just handed him over to a buddy that was very willing to take him. And his wife grew up with pack goats, so she knows what she's getting into.
Okay.
But it's exciting because they will be 3 years old this summer. I think it's 3 years old. But either way, this is going to be the first year that we're going to pack with them. So we're going to do some like test backpack trips with them, probably just go like fishing alpine lakes and stuff
Okay.
this summer and get like our system down. And then our plan is to take a mule deer hunting in the fall.
That's awesome. That's a dream of mine. I tell my wife all the time that when I retire and I'm done with the Air Force, we'll be raising pack goats.
By
They're just so cool. At least
sturdy fencing.
go ahead.
Sturdy fencing. That's
Sturdy
all
fencing.
like that. Talk about like spending money once and crying once. Just buy the expensive sturdy fencing right away, man. Because that was like our thing. Is I didn't realize how destructive they were going to be, and they. I just got to the point where like, dude, I already spent all this money on crappy fencing, and I'm out of money. Like I'm not spending money to fence in with the really expensive stuff now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but they're living their
Good
best
tip. I'll
life.
keep that in mind.
And for folks that are like interested in goats, I'll tell you, man, believe it or not, they're like really smart. They remember things. They're sweet animals. Once you've raised them from babies, they're super sweet. I mean, these goats, man, like, and they're big, tough billy goats. Even now, when we go visit my buddy, they remember who we are. As soon as I pull up in the truck, man, they come running over to my wife and I and wanting pets and stuff like that. They're super cool critters. I do miss them from time to time, but I'm really excited to go hunt with them. So, but I will be living vicariously through you with your spring bear hunt, as well as anybody else that will allow me to live vicariously through them, since I won't be spring bear hunting this year, sadly.
I'll definitely be sending you some updates with that hauling mules back there. And I think he said he's like, I've got batteries and a Starlink, so we're going to be 10 miles in the backcountry and apparently have cell service, which I'm on the fence about, but we'll see how
Yeah.
it goes.
That's
Just
bittersweet, right?
need to live comfortably. My wife will appreciate me having service at night when I get back to camp.
Exactly. Well, right on, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and look forward to getting updates on your bear hunt. Do you have any like final thoughts or anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, I really like helping people. So if anybody that listens to this wants help planning a hunt or something, I'll happily sit down and run through, start to finish. If you need help with any of the things that we talked about today, I'm sure that you can plug my email or contact info somewhere. But yeah, give me a ring, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to run through it with you and answer any questions. I love bears. I'm passionate about bears, and I think more people should get out there and hunt them.
I agree, man. I'm kind of on a mission to make bear hunting great again. I think they're really awesome animals. I think they're an overlooked opportunity. And I mean, I'm not trying to fill the mountains with bear hunters where I hunt, but at the same time, I want bear hunting to be popular and protected. And the more a species is valued by hunters and non-hunters alike, the more conservation efforts go into protecting and maintaining these animals. And they're worth it, man. They're incredible critters, and I really enjoy watching them, pursuing them, and all those things. As far as your email, I have that as grizzmint22@gmail.com, which is, and I'll put it in the show notes too, but that's GRIZZMINT@gmail.com, grizzmint22@gmail.com. I appreciate that, man. I hope that some folks decide to reach out to you and get some advice for their upcoming spring bear hunts out here in the West. So yeah, man, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, please reach out. I'll help you e-scout, pick a unit, all that good stuff.
Good deal. And so folks, just stay tuned, because we got plenty of more spring bear stuff coming up. We got more spring bear hunting stories coming up. So I think that the rest of this month is going to be pretty awesome. And then next month we will dive into turkey hunting. So again, it's kind of that spring fur and feather extravaganza. So join us next week to continue listening to the spring bear stuff. And then also, I'm just going to make a quick plug, and I'll probably record something about it just to drop in the commercials. But if anybody's interested, right now is the time to book. But if anyone's interested in going on a backcountry Alaskan fishing expedition, and I mean like, custom to the way you would want it. So, whether you want to do 1 night, 2 nights, powerboat, you want to float a river and camp, or if you just want to show up and do a half day or full day of fishing. This would be an Alaska custom fishing trip, primarily targeting trophy northern pike, 40 inches plus, trophy grayling. I believe that there's some trout that'll get tossed in the mix and stuff too. Awesome experience. But this would be, you'd book with my buddy who's been on the podcast before, Jesse Walt. He is alaskalarge.com, AKLRGE.com, AKlarge.com. That stands for Alaska Lakes and Rivers Guided Expeditions. Hit them up, or you can message me, email me, and I'll get you in touch with them. Get your custom fishing trip booked now for this upcoming summer. If you're lucky, you might get to go hang out with me. Not that anybody listening wants to come hang out with me, but if you do, you will get to hang out with me because I'll be there at least for part of his season helping him out. So really hope that folks will jump on that opportunity, book a trip with Alaska Large, and come do some awesome backcountry fishing based out of Fairbanks. So, all right, guys. Well, we have taken up enough of your guys' time. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Thanks again. And if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors.